Welcome back, everybody. This is Brother Meat here. Today we're talking about Wrath of the Righteous, and we're talking, while we're still planning our builds, I wanted to help you plan yours. So what we're going to do here is I wanted to show you what currently in beta, again, early access, so things are likely to change, what spells you might have access to depending on which mythic path you take, because no one seems to be writing this down or telling anybody other than the new spells. They're like, that's cool, and hey man, it's fun to see the new shit. But I need to know about the other stuff that I also have access to. So the videos we're going to do today are going to be broken down under Lich, Angel, Demon, and Trickery. And that's because I don't have access to the Azada or the Aeon yet, because again I screwed up the Mythic Path on those, so I can't do those yet. I'll go back in time using a save file, and I'll have to probably come all the way back to, good lord, Aeon Path started here, because this is where I first unlocked it. Again, there's something that you can interact with, talk to, and that's the start of it, but I didn't finish it. You need to literally like follow the path like once or twice, and then boom, you're done. The Azada one was a little trickier, and again, I have an idea on how to do that based on watching other people's channels. Not to shout out channels that are better than mine, but hey, I always like passing along good information to good people, so that seems to be you guys, so let's pass it on to you. There's one called Mortismal Gaming. Hope I'm saying that right. Mortismal Gaming does a really good job. He has like 10,000 followers or some such right now, and it's almost like full-time doing a channel like this, and does an excellent job. So does Samurai Sykes, I think is the name of the guy. You'll know him when you get in his channel. He doesn't have as many viewers as even me, but he's getting there. He does a good job, seems to be passionate about this game, so he clearly cares. And you'll see him because he actually puts his picture, or like a video of himself in the picture. Very nice black man. I want to say wears a Bears jersey all the time. These are the couple videos that I've seen. So I'm guessing he's from Illinois, which is so from MI. So, you know, kudos, buddy. Does a good job. Again, tune into those two channels. They give you a good information on what these basics paths are, how to unlock them, for example, and where to find all the stuff. But none of them have shown all the spells, and I wanted you to see them, specifically the Lich and the Angel, because they are unique spell books in that they go from level 1 all the way up to level 9 spells. Now again, I heard that there's level 10 in there, but I don't see any for either of them, which is fine. And again, maybe because it's early access, because it's beta, that they haven't added them all yet, but I can't imagine that there's a whole lot of level 10 spells in D&D, or Pathfinder for that matter, so I think people are probably lying. No, when I say Lich 10, Angel 10, Demon 10, etc. and so forth, we're referring to the fact that that's the mythic rank. So I went Trickery, 10 ranks. Angel, 10 ranks. You'll see it'll say Lich 20, for example, when we get into this character, which we're going to look today. It's because that's caster level 20, because he has his own unique spellbook. Again, I've talked about this in the past. What does this mean? If you don't merge your spellbooks, there's two different paths that you can take to merge your spellbooks. Let's talk about that real quick. One is the Lich. The other is Angel. So far, there's no indication that that's going to change. However, who can merge might change. Let me explain what I mean. Liches, you have to be an arcane caster. That's the first requirement. The second requirement to merge your spellbook is you have to have full casting, which means you have to have level 0 all the way to level 9 spells. And yes, I see there's a level 10 here. Not the point. 0 to 9 is what we're talking about. So wizards, sorcerers, arcanists. Sadly, witch, while considered arcane caster, for whatever reason, they decided witches can't be liches. And bitches get stitches. I don't know. Point is, witches get screwed here. And it's a shame, because witches would be fucking OP as hell if you made them a lich too. A lich witch would be bitchin'. Sorry, there were a lot of things to say that sound like lich. Point is, they don't have it yet. They may never get it, so don't plan on builds like that unless you hear otherwise. But know that a wizard lich is a thing, a sorcerer lich is a thing, arcanist lich is a thing. If you take those, let's just go wizard lich. Purest wizard, purest lich, where you do 10 ranks of lich, which as you can see I am 10 right now, and 20 levels of straight wizard. Okay? Doesn't matter if it's a specialist wizard or just a wizard. Wizard lich combo. When you merge the spell books, you will finish with a caster level of 30, from what I understand. Because it takes the rank of your lich and the level of your wizard and adds them. So when we start this, by the way, you can become a lich once you get mythic rank 3. You can get any of these ranks with the exception of the 3 that are currently locked behind beta. And that's the Gold Dragon, the Mythic Hero, or Champion, or Legendary Hero, something like that. And then the Swarm that Walks, I think, is the 3rd one. Those ones are locked behind a wall of, it's not in beta, and it's never going to be in beta, because it's somewhere later in the game that gets unlocked, from what I understand. Other than those 3, you can unlock, if you have done so, the various Mythic Paths, Lich being one. If you become a Lich at level 3 Mythic rank, you decide to choose Lich because you've unlocked and you decided I want to be that, and you're a wizard, let's say, it'll give you an option of merging the spell books. If you do so, let's say you're a wizard level 10, just to have a number. You're casting level 5 spells. Lich added to that spell book means you're a wizard level 13. 10 for wizard, 3 plus Lich makes level 13. Now you can cast all the way up to level 7 spells instantaneously. See that? So that's how powerful that is. And again, you can get to capture level 30 then by the end of the build. 20 levels of wizard, 10 levels of Lich. You're a 30 level caster. That's freaking huge. For those of you who don't understand what that means, the amount of spells you're going to get a day is going to be ridiculous. The DC checks on your spells are going to be fucking insane. The spell pen is going to be insane. All the shit that goes with being a high level caster is going to be magnified. So you can see the appeal of the Lich Wizard or the Lich Sorcerer, for example. The other one that can merge a spell book is the other path we're going to show you in a separate video today. That's the Angel path. And if you do Angel path, you have to be a Divine caster. And again, same principle. You have to be a full caster, level 0 to 9 spells. So Cleric, Oracle are the two I think that I heard are available. Sadly, again, much like the Witch, Druids were excluded from the list. They may never get on the list. I don't know why they weren't on the list. Maybe there's another path that they're thinking about where the Druid would make sense to have a merged spell book. I don't know, but they haven't told us. So that would be the other one. And again, the same principle. A level 10 Cleric, level 3 Angel, merged together. You're a level 13 Cleric as far as the game's concerned. So again, you can finish with level 30 Cleric or Oracle, which is pretty badass. Oracle, by the way, for those that don't know, are spontaneous clerical type caster types. Again, kind of like the sorcerer, but in a divine version. Again, very cool. But for those of us that like subcasters, like me and my Magus, me and my Alchemist, or Inquisitor, or a Blood Rager, War Priest, a variety of other characters that I wanted to play, Eldritch Scoundrel even too, that I want to know ahead of time. I mean, I know that's cheating, because in D&D you wouldn't, but screw that. I want to know. I'm playing a game, investing lots of hours in it. I want to know what is available. And besides the mythic abilities and mythic feats and all the cool shit that everyone's going to have access to, which are definitely cool and powerful, the spell books are the big selling point. Because you can even play a generic level 20 fighter and unlock any of these paths, and suddenly you have spell casting at your beck and call. You have summons. Depending on which path you get, dictates what kind of summonings you get. You'll get spell-like abilities. You'll get innate abilities that just make you awesome for being a Lich or an Angel or a Demon or whatever. And that's all just given to you. So, I want to know about the spells because it helps me plan builds ahead of time. One, if I'm a spontaneous caster like an Eldritch Scion or a Inquisitor, someone where my spell picks are very precise for a reason. I need to know that I will need that spell from level 1 or 4 or 17, whenever I pick it up, till the end of the game. Because if it's a spell that's like, let's say, for example, Sleep Spell. Amazing at early levels, garbage once you out-level the content, where the spell is no longer viable. Okay? That's a terrible spell pick for someone that has a spontaneous casting, since we do not get to re-pick our spells. There's a way around it, but you almost have to rebuild the character, and that straight up sucks. It can be done. That's how I actually redid all these different paths. So, again, that is in the game, the ability to do that. I would shy away from that because it's one of those where early levels, it's not that big of a deal. Again, like, let's say you get a wizard with level, or a sorcerer, there you go, someone that has spontaneous spell casting, where they get like sleep spells at the earlier levels. They use it all the way up to like level 4, and then it becomes completely garbage after that because there's nothing they're finding where the sleep spell works on them. Go to the trainer. The trainer will allow you to respec your character, or literally make a whole new character if you so choose. Just remember what you picked, when you picked it, write it all down, and then when it comes to picking the sleep spell, don't. Pick something else. You can totally do that. Costs a little bit of money, totally worth doing. Early levels, it's not that big a deal. You get to a level 10, level 15, level 20 character, God forbid, and with like 1, 2, 10 mythic ranks to pick as well, it becomes cumbersome real fast and pricey. So avoid that shit. That's what we're trying to do here with this video. So let's talk about the spell book. Okay, we have Magus 20. Don't worry about that. I'm an arcane bloodline slash, I'm a dual bloodline, got a secondary bloodline, arcane bloodline and an undead bloodline for this character. He's a Vampire. Don't care. This is not a finished build in any stretch of the imagination. It's level 20 because I power level 20. which is a mistake of mine, and then a Lich 20, because again, I'm Lich rank 10, double that, and that's my own spellbook for the Lich. That's because I do not have a merged spellbook. Okay, this will be anyone else that's not a wizard or sorcerer. And again, even the wizard and sorcerers do not have to merge the spellbook with a Lich. They can have two separate spellbooks. There's reasons to do that. We'll talk about that today too. But by and large, they'd probably want to be a level 30 caster more than a level 20 caster twice. Potato, potato. Everybody's different on that shit. Having said that, let's talk about the Lich spells. Notice that we don't get any cantrips, even though it looks like we do. There's nothing at level 10 where the hell appear. And again, I'm level 20. I'm as high as I can take the Lich. I'm Mythic rank 10. Now, level 1. These are the spells you're going to have access to. Notice that you're a spontaneous caster for Magus or Eldritch Scion, because that's the kind of Magus I am, or a Inquisitor, or an Oracle, or a Sorcerer. These, if it's a separate spellbook, you have to pick them. Okay, so it's like a wizard. You have to prepare your spells. Okay, but this is your spell list: Bane, Cause Fear, Doom, Grease, Inflict Light Wounds, Mage Armor, Ray of Enfeeblement, Ray of Sickening, Shield, Sleep, Touch of Gracelessness. Of this list, there's some decent shit in here. The Ray spells are solid. The Inflict Light Wounds is decent, especially when you factor in the fact that your Lich, if you pick the right stuff, or automatically, I can't remember, but you start healing from Inflict spells. So now I have the ability to heal myself, especially if I'm running solo. And I get a little undead minion, this Skeletal Champion. He gets badass over time. And of course I can heal him with Inflict spells as well. So if he starts taking it on the chin, I can top him off, which is very cool, very helpful, very useful. Notice another reason for wanting to do this, or these types of videos, is not just what spells you have, how many you get is important. This is inflated, I'll explain why in a bit. But by and large, I wanted to show it to you because there's going to be spells that you want to know how many spells are enchantment, how many are necromancy. I'm not going to write that down and tell you that today because, again, everyone's going to play this differently. But by and large, this will be set in stone for a Lich spellbook. This will always be this number at level 1, always be these spells at level 2. Whether you choose them or not, that's on you. Obviously, heavy focus on necromancy. Weirdly, a decent focus on transmutation. Again, that makes kind of some sense. I mean, it is about muting life and death, so transmutation kind of fits the theme. Weird stuff to me is enchantment. Yeah, not so much. Illusion, which you haven't seen yet, definitely weird. Abjuration, I guess because they're protecting themselves. I mean, they are casters. Kind of makes sense. But I mean, like, Conjuration Grease spell, how the hell, what are these, like, trickster liches? How does that make any sense? Again, it's not for me to decide that this is the appropriate spell for this path. I'm just letting you know what spells are available. Now, in this list, something else I'm going to show you is a couple things. One, spells that are garbage, that are trap spells. By the time you even pick them up, you never get them. Sleep being one, Cause Fear being another. Some of them are save or suck spells. Decent spells, but only if they work, right? So that's an important thing too, another distinction you need to know. Which ones have saving throws. You also want to know which ones do not have spell resistance. We are fighting demons after all, and as such, big spell resistance on lots of those assholes in this game. You better believe having at least a few spells where you can rely on them to do what they're supposed to do, whether it's attack, do damage, debuff, buff, whatever. We need to know that, and that's another reason for doing these videos. On this list, the ones to me that stick out, I mean, I've picked a bunch, but the ones that stick out to me are Grease is always a favorable spell. And again, this is the spell that, again, as a Magus, you see I did not take it because I knew I was getting it for free. This is another example of one. Cause Fear was because of my background. I specifically got that for free. I would never pick that spell. But again, I also got it in the Lich spell book right here. So again, I didn't have to. It didn't need to double up. Same with Shield spell. But now the problem with this is while I get it for free here, and I'm happy to get it at caster level 20, that's an amazing spell, by the time you pick this up, you should have been using this all that time. So to not have it in your Magus spell list, like here, that'd be a bad idea. To me, anyway. So again, this is another one of those where, boy, would it nice to know that I was getting shield. But again, I probably still would have picked it up here. Because again, why not? At this point, though, again, I try to focus on the positives. At this point, once I unlock Lich, I get this like almost immediately, right? I just have to slot it, and I have to level it up because you start at level 3 Lich rank, you'll be a level 6 Lich over here in the spellbook. So it'll only last for 6 minutes. You only get like 1 or 2 spells a day. Well, maybe 5 or 6. More on that later. Point is, it's not going to last you very long, unlike my better level 10, say, Magus spell shield, because by the time I pick it up, I'll probably be a level 10 Magus. So this will last me 10 minutes here, whereas the Lich version will only last me 6. Well, I can just slot all the slots for shield spell, and therefore save. That's why I say I focus on the positives. Save all these precious spell slots a day for things like Corrosive Touch, for the Shocking Grasp, which I didn't take, Snowball, which I did take, Magic Missile, which I got for free, stuff like that. So use the one spell book as kind of like your buff book sometimes, and use the other one as your attack book, is the way I'm thinking about this. It's a similar feel for how I play, what's that, Prestige class, the one that allows you to be a Divine and an Arcane caster at the same time. What is it called? Damn it. Lost my train of thought, guys. I'm sorry. We did a build video for it a while ago for Tristan, where he was it's not Ecclesiarch. That's stuck in my head. That's why I can't remember the name. But basically, you have to get like 3rd level casting spells for a Divine caster, and 3rd level spells for an Arcane caster, and then you can merge them, where you still get to cast and progress both spell books at the same time. This is very cool, very similar to what we're doing here. But again, that's how I usually handle that type of build, where I use like the Cleric spells for buffs, and I use the Wizard, probably, spells for attack. Right? There's a reason that those casters are freaking amazing, because they get to do a little bit of everything. Heal, buff, go to town, and then stand back and just blast, blast, blast. It's the same general feel that I'm getting off of these guys. Now, what else in this list here do I favor? Grease is amazing. Inflict light wounds with its no spell resistance. By the way, Grease also has no spell resistance. Conjuration spell, as well as the necromancy spells that you're seeing here. So you're going to see a lot of different spells represented here from 1 to 9. Not much in the way of evocation. Decent amount of enchantment. Weirdly, some illusion, which makes, again, no sense to me. But it's there. Very little in the way of divine. Not surprising. Other stuff in here. You may say Mage Armor, but again, Magus have access to armor. Again, I don't mind having access to Mage Armor. Remember, you can cast this on another friendly target. Like my pet here, maybe not have armor. Maybe your Battle Cat, whatever, is out, and I can fucking buff him up with +4 armor class for many, many hours. You can see the appeal. Also, there's times where I will change shape. Turn into a dragon, for example. When I'm in dragon form, I can still cast spells, but I also do not have armor. So if you cast Mage Armor then or before, so it's still on your character when you change, you will get that +4 armor now kicking in. So there's reasons to want Mage Armor, is my point. I like my ray spells, especially on a good attack build. Magus are really good at attacking. Wizards, not so much. So again, a decent reason for wanting those. And on that, by the way, I could have gone, say, Eldritch Archer Magus, which is a subclass of Magus, that can shoot ray spells through their ranged weapon, whether it's a bow, a crossbow, a dart, a javelin, throwing axe, whatever ranged weapon they're using. At level 2 on up, if they activate spell or ranged spell strike and spell combat, their 2 toggles, they can cast a ray spell and shoot it through their weapon. The weapon crits, the spell crits. You can see the appeal. Same thing for Magus, but for melee touch attacks, like our Corrosive Touch, for example. But the reason I bring this up is because if the spells are not available to a Magus, including an Eldritch Archer, from level 1 to level 6, or hell, even the cantrips for that matter, so 0 to 6, they cannot shoot that through their weapon. For example, I can use Ray of Enfeeblement on an Eldritch Archer because they had access to the spell. They don't even have to take it. The Lich can provide it, and they can still shoot it through their weapon. I can't shoot Ray of Sickening. Why? Because Ray of Sickening wasn't available. Here's another one that a Magus doesn't have access to normally. Touch of Gracelessness. So again, it's a melee touch attack now. Something that you would say, well, channel it through your weapon and crit with the weapon. Sadly, you can't. A Magus doesn't have access to this spell. I can get it. There's always a workaround, a way around it. And I don't mean because I got it as a Lich. I mean I can get it as a Magus. I got free spells like Create Undead. That's another one they don't normally have access to. Chains of Light, another one they don't normally have access to. I got these because I went the Arcane Bloodline. Arcane Bloodline gets 3 free spells as they level up that come from the Wizard Spell Book. So the shit that they were missing, which are a lot of enchantments, a decent amount of necromancy spells, are suddenly available to them. A true Magus, a purist Eldritch Scion, for example, can go all the way to 19 level Eldritch Scion, and they get 6 free wizard spells, level 1 through 6. And again, shit that they normally didn't have access to. Greater Heroism being another favorite of mine. I didn't take it, sadly, but I grabbed other shit because, again, undead. Point was, I had access to all kinds of cool shit, including ray spells, including melee touch attacks. A fine example, again, is being that Touch of Gracelessness. I can pick that up. That's a wizard spell, but I cannot channel it through my weapon. Okay. Same with ray spells. If they're available to an Eldritch Archer from level 0 all the way to level 6, they're in there somewhere, whether they take them or not. It doesn't matter if they got it from their Cleric Spell Book, from the Lich Spell Book, from any spell book. They can channel it now through their weapon because that's what they do with that spell. The game knows that. It also knows that they shouldn't have access to Ray of Sickening. They also know that they shouldn't have access to, I'll give you an example of a good one, Battering Blast. This is one that I picked up for free with my free spell picks. Again, it's a ray spell. It's a multiple ray spell. Shoots 4 beams at best case scenario. It's fucking awesome. I would love to shoot that through my bow and arrow, but I can't because Eldritch Archers don't have access to this normally. Just because it's a free spell pick doesn't mean it's a spell they would normally get from level 1 to level 20. So those are excluded. Know that that's a thing. But there's plenty of overlap, is my point. Again, Raven Enfeeblement is something that they would have had access to. They can now shoot that through their bow. That's awesome. I like Touch of Gracelessness. I like Raven Enfeeblement. Notice that Raven Enfeeblement has a maximum strength debuff, I should say, where it can't take the strength below 1. It says it in the tooltip. The subject strength score cannot drop below 1. Why is that important? Because anyone that has an ability that's 0 or less for any reason is now dead. Doesn't matter if it's Charisma. Doesn't matter if it's Con. Doesn't matter if it's any of the other 6 or the 4 other attributes or abilities that you have. So Strength, Dex, Con, Intelligence, Wisdom, Charisma. Anything taken to 0 or less, they're dead. Poof. That includes you. So when you see stuff that says they can't take it below 1, know that. And that means you can't kill them with this spell. You can fuck them up. Because let's face it, if they have a strength of 1, what's the chance they're ever really a problem anymore? Unless they're a caster type. You're basically screwing this guy over huge. Same with Touch of Gracelessness, but notice how this one doesn't say anything about being capped. Now, that might just be a typo. They just forgot to add it, because it's basically the melee touch version of the ray spell that's Raven Enfeeblement. This can be shot at range. This one is a touch. This one's dex. This one's strength. They're basically the same spell, just different stat. But this one does not specifically say, will not take them below 1. If that's true, you could kill them with enough applications of this. The downside is, that's not true. They don't stack. This one doesn't stack. You can't Raven Enfeeblement, Raven Enfeeblement, Raven Enfeeblement, and get them down to 1 that way. It is Raven Enfeeblement once, you're done. There's other spells, though, that can take their strength down, and that's where I think the will not take them below 1 is the issue here. If that's the case, though, let's say we have someone that's particularly weak. You zap a Cobalt. You take him down to 1 strength with Raven Enfeeblement your very first shot. He's basically screwed, but you want to kill him with a spell because you do everything in style. You find another spell that will lower his strength, that's capable of taking his strength down below 1, hit him with that spell, and he'll die. That's definitely a thing that can happen. Same with, I assume, then Touch of Gracelessness. Even if this doesn't take him below 1, because it doesn't say that, but if it does, they just forgot to type it in, it takes him down to 1, hit him with the other spell that will take his dexterity down another point or more, and poop, he's gone. So again, that is always an option. Setting it up with one spell to affect with the other. And that's a common theme we'll see with necromancy spells too, in my opinion. Other than that, again, Ray of Sickening, solid ray spell, it's a save or suck spell. However, the sickened condition is a very nasty condition to inflict on someone. Doesn't make them paralyzed, doesn't mean they can't attack. That's nausea you're thinking of. But sickened is a massive penalty. It's like a -2 to like his attack, his damage, his saves, his everything. They basically get fucked. And it lasts for a long time, and it is a proper save or suck spell. What do I mean by that? If they make the save, nothing happens. If they fail to save, it's a one and done. You failed. You're a loser. You don't get to recheck at every level or every round. You're done. It's it. It's affecting you for the duration of the spell or until someone wipes the spell off you or you die, which is probably what's going to happen. So these are decent spells. And again, as long as you have some decent necromancy and some spell pen, that spell resistance is less likely to be a problem. Other than that, again, Mage Armor and Shield, solid spells. Bane, it's okay. I'd rather cast it with a Cleric, but it doesn't much matter. It's going to affect them more likely than not, and it's AoE and it's teammate friendly, so have at thee, I say. I wouldn't waste it on one guy. I'd cast a Bane spell on a massive crowd of dudes that are coming at us, because if I can hit more than one guy with it, maybe all of them make the save, maybe none of them make the save, maybe just one of them fails the save. So at least I've debuffed somebody is the goal here. So that's why I kind of like those spells, because AoE saving throw checks are infinitely better in my opinion. Level 2 spells: Blindness, Bone Shaker, Command Undead, new spell, as far as I know anyway. False Life, Frigid Touch, Glitter Dust, Hold Animal, Inflict Moderate Wounds, Invisibility, Mirror Image, Pernicious Poison, Pox Pustules, and Scare. Again, decent smattering of necromancy spells. We have some of my favorites in here. Bone Shaker is an auto hit spell. It's got decent range. Does decent damage. It's a save spell, but if they make the save, half damage. And it's a fortitude save. Why is that important, Brother Mutant? Well, if it's a reflexing ninja bastard, remember they have that uncanny dodge and the evasion and all that other shit. I want to say it's the evasion feat that the rogues get. That if it's a reflex save and for half damage, and they make the check, they take none. Fuck that. I want to hurt them. That's the whole point of using the spell. So here you go. Bone Shaker. That's a fortitude save. And yes, before you get on your high horse, there is a class in there, I want to say it's the Inquisitor, that has that same ability that the rogues get for reflex saves, but instead they get it for fortitude saves. And that's the Inquisitor. And it's fucking cool. But again, hopefully you're not fighting that Inquisitor. But the point is again, if you buff your necromancy DC checks with spell focus and greater spell focus necromancy, you have a pretty good chance then of landing this, and they would make that fail for that saving throw. So full damage. So I'm still cool with that. Notice there's no cap to the amount of damage it does. See, it says 3d6 plus 1d6 points of damage per 2 caster levels. The only reason this matters to you is we're level 20 Lich, up in the spell casting number over here. So as far as this spell is concerned, we're level 20. So 20 divided by 2 is 10, so 10d6 and 3d6, it should do 13d6 of damage for me. If you were a wizard or sorcerer or whatever, merging a spell book with a lich, remember, you'd be caster level 30 by the end. So now, what would that Bone Shaker do now? What's 30 divided by 2? That's 15, plus 3d6, that's 18d6 of damage. And why does that matter? Because its big brother, called Bone Shatter, caps out at 15d6. Whereas this one is now a lower level spell and does more fucking damage. Why would you not want to use it? You see that? That's why I wanted to point that one out to you. So look for the ones that have no caster level cap. Because again, 20 is what I'm at. That doesn't mean you can't be at 21 or 30 or 31 even for that matter. There are ways to buff your caster level beyond the cap, if you will. Command Undead, new spell. As far as I know, it wasn't in Kingmaker anyway. Blindness is a good spell, but it's a save or suck spell proper. Fortitude save negates the effect. It is considered a curse, so if they're immune to curses, that sucks. They don't have senses, like vision. Blindness doesn't affect them, so again, they're immune too. So there's a variety of ways around this spell. Great spell when it works, but again, the trick there is that last phrase, when it works. Command Undead, on the other hand, again, spell resistance will save each round, very annoying. However, you're basically controlling an undead. So an undead that was basically a problem a moment ago, you've converted him to our side. This is the equivalent of either charm person, but for undead, or more likely it's more like dominate person or dominate monster. But obviously it only works for undead. One at a time, so you don't get to get multiples of these bastards. Doesn't last long either. It takes a full round to cast, which means all you got is maybe a 5-foot stutter step, and you have to make sure you specifically select 5-foot stutter step to move and cast this spell. Okay, if you try to just move 5 feet without selecting the 5-foot stutter step, you will literally move 5 feet and it will assume you're going to use your full or your move action completely, and will not let you cast this spell. So be real careful with shit like that. So when you see something that takes a full round, this is the same for the summons, for the exception of like Animate Dead, which is like a normal standard action to cast it. But for the summon monsters 1 through 9 and similar spells, you literally take a full round of Whoopa Joopa Joopa before you can cast it. If you're going to do that, my advice to you is don't move at all. Just fuck it. Just cast where you're standing, at distance, but cast where you're standing. Make sure it's within range so you can poof the little monster out there. And then if you have any movement left, if it'll let you, go ahead and move, but I don't think it will. So that could be an issue. But this is a decent turn them to your side kind of thing. Notice how intelligent creatures will be try to throw off the domination, make a will save each round. So if it's a dumb undead, whatever the fuck that means, probably like an intelligence of like 2 or 1, then you basically just control them until the spell ends. If you have like a smart, intelligent-ish ghost, specter, something like that, vampire, whatever, dicking around with you, you can control them, but they're going to try to throw it off like any person would. So they'll do will check, will check, will check, and eventually they will pass that shit. I don't give a damn how good your spell DC check is. Eventually they'll roll a nat 20. It's going to happen. So be prepared for that shit. If you ever see those spells that have a check every round, paralysis spells are fine examples, never assume it'll work. Never assume that it will work as long as you want it to. And what do I mean by both those statements? Well, again, every spell that is a save or suck spell, I call it that on purpose for a reason. Because if you make the save, nothing happens. Well, fuck. I wasted my turn casting that spell. Yep. That's why I don't like using spells that are save or suck spells if I can help it. I like the save or something happen spells. Like, again, Bone Shaker. They make the save. Half damage. At least it did something. Right? So I made that get the effect that I was hoping for, but at least I did something. I contributed. If you cast enchantments and illusions all the time, a fine example of the save or suck phenomenon. Let's get the whole animal to talk about that right now. Same general principle. Save or suck spell. Will save. If they make it, poof, problem solved. It did nothing for you to cast that spell. You wasted a spell slot. Well, two ways around that. One, make sure that your DC checks are fucking high so that they're less likely to make that save. Downside is, and here's the real kicker, a nat 20 roll on their reflex save, their will save, their fortitude save is a success. Without fail, well, there's exceptions to the rule always, but mostly a nat 20 will succeed. Just like a crit failure, even if your DC check was like 11 or something lame for a hold animal, and they have like a will save of like plus 30, you would think they'd always pass it, right? Well, if they roll a nat 1, that's a crit failure. You held them. So that works. So it works on both sides. You have always works, always fails. There's always that 5% chance. Know that that's there. Don't get pissed off when it happens. On the other spells in here, notice Frigid Touch. For my Magus builds, remember, Frigid Touch is one of their melee touch attacks that they can get naturally as they level up. So I can cast this version into my weapon and swing, swing, swing. And if my weapon crits, it works. So I have, technically, if I want to, 8 more of the melee touch attacks that I wanted from a level 2 spell from just having another spell book. How fucking awesome am I? And if you go back to my Magus at level 2, you'll see not only do I have that spell, but I can cast that 11 fucking times a day. So technically speaking, I could channel 19 Frigid Touches with both of these spellbooks total, doing the full 46 of damage and the staggered effect, and then chance to crit for double damage and staggered for 1 minute instead of 1 round. Every day. That's a lot, right? So this is why you say having the 2 separate spellbooks can be powerful. So Frigid Touch, solid spell. Again, notice that there is no save, but there is spell resistance. False Life, kind of lame, but having said that, I appreciate having 11 to 20 extra HP. My character is not that tough. And having it for many hours, that is misleading. The buff won't fall off, but you'll rapidly lose that 11 to 20 HP very quickly. So never work on that assumption that, oh, it's going to be there for like many hours. No, it's not. First fight you get into, it's probably going to be stripped right off you. That's okay. It served its purpose. If it kept you from fucking taking a dirt nap, then False Life did its job, right? As soon as all those temp HPs are gone, you don't get them back until you recast the spell. It's not like you can heal it. So it's False Life, and that's all you got, son. So be careful. Glitter Dust, amazing spell. This is, again, another one that if I didn't grab it at Magus, did I? I did. Then I should have. My point is, now I don't have to. Glitter Dust is amazing, and yes, I would love to have it on my Magus build, but honestly, if something had to go the way of the dodo, like I had the choice between this or some other amazing spell like Mirror Image, I'd happily take this. But I'd rather have the Mirror Image. Why? Protection versus utility. Glitter Dust is an amazing spell. Notice no spell resistance and conjuration spell here. Very similar theme you'll see with a lot of conjuration spells. I like it for 2 reasons. One, there's an effect even if they make the save. The save is nothing more as were they blinded, were they not. If they make that save, they're still coated with the dust, which means they have a -40 penalty to all stealth checks. That's how they get invisibility in this game. Invisibility in this game, which you'll see here in a minute, is nothing more than a +20 to your stealth check. That's all it is. Okay? So taking 40 away, you can see bones a lot of the stealthers. Even the really good stealthers where they're like ninja bastards, where there's stealth and invisibility on them, and they have a +50 total for their stealth check. I just took away 40 of it. And remember, stealth is basically the opposite of perception. We use our perception to see them, and we do a check based on our perception versus their stealth. So if we can lower their stealth by a significant number, like, I don't know, how about 40? It's a pretty good chance that we're all going to fucking see that glitter dust motherfucker, right? And it's AoE. It's not teammate friendly. Be careful with it. Hold animal, we talked about it already. Obviously, animal's a very nebulous term. Be real careful here, because animal doesn't necessarily mean mythic animals or magical beasts or things of that nature. They really mean wolves, birds, things that were basically just considered animals and nothing more. And when you inspect them, if you know anything about them, you will rapidly see what type it is. Dragons are not animals. Be real clear on this. Humans are not animals. All the humanoids are not animals. Animals are animals, and some of the animals aren't even animals. They're considered mythical beasts. So they don't fall in that category. So know that this isn't going to work on everything. It's not going to work on many things. But I'd keep one in my back pocket, just because getting tripped by a giant fucking warg or wolf is really fucking annoying, especially as a wizard or a sorcerer where you have like squishy ass fucking HP. So hold animal that motherfucker and let the team go over there and club it to death like a baby seal. Inflict moderate wounds. We're undead and or close to it, and so is our undead army. We can heal ourselves with this. This can also be used to damage living targets, obviously. Melee touch attack. Fine on a strength-based build. Better, in my opinion, on a dex-based build, because you need that extra armor. You just need to make sure you have weapon finesse, because you can weapon finesse melee touch attacks. And the best thing about weapon finesse is weapon finesse also works with, dexterity builds also work with ray spells. So the dex build works twofold, in my opinion. That's why I prefer a dex-based build, Magus. Typically. I love my ray caster builds. But this one can be a melee touch attack. You walk over, boom, hurt the motherfucker. And sometimes all you need is just to do, 12 points of damage. Maximum caster level is 10. So if I'm level 20, which I am right now for Lich, I'm getting that plus 10. Even if I roll a 1 and a 1, I'm doing 12 points of damage, half if they make their save. So if all you need is a love tap, a melee touch attack is easier, say it the right way, to hit a target than trying to hit someone with full plate armor and a shield besides and all the other buffs that he has. Touch attacks are infinitely easier to land. And especially if they're flat-footed, then it's fucking easy. It's a pie. You just walk over and go, boop, fuck you, and you take damage. And it's awesome. And because it's a to-hit check, sneak attack damage is applicable here. Same with Frigid Touch, by the way. Visibility. Terrible spell-ish. I would slot it once. No, I didn't. But I would slot it once for the utility of casting it on, say, like the Rogue. Someone with huge stealth already. Slapped it on them where it's a plus 20. Make sure they don't do anything but walk into the area slowly as fuck. Make sure you buff them besides the invisibility, though. Have them walk into an area, disarm all the fucking traps, circumvent the entire area so they can see where the main fights are at. Would be how I would do this in pen and paper, and of course you guys would too, I'm sure. You could probably do most of this in the game. It's a little trickier because for whatever reason the game has perception of the yin-yang, but it, again, in theory should work. And the reason that you would do that is because we have limited spells per day. Even with the awesome caster build that I got going right now, I still have limited spells a day. I would like to know when I should use my very quick spells. The ones that only last like one round per caster level kind of things, like Sense Vitals. Well, if we had a rogue that was stealthy enough with this and their own stealth skill besides, walking through a fucking area, checking out everything, say, oh, here's a fight here, but it looks like fodder, goes to the next area, oh, there's a fight in this room, and another fight in the room right next to that. Okay, this would be where I'd probably want to pre-buff up and then take out those two rooms, because going from one fight to another, I probably still have that buff still on me. This is how I would use invisibility. Otherwise, garbage. The reason it's garbage is because the moment you attack, the moment you cast a spell to do any kind of attacking, poof, it's off you. Now, yeah, it's usually good enough for you to get that sneak attack off, but one and done, and that's it. And you're not invisible anymore, so you're naked in the fucking breeze out there. You better be buffed to the yin-yang, man. So, it's helpful. Don't kid yourself. It's just not amazing, like Greater Invis will be. Mirror Image, amazing spell. And again, I don't mind that I have it on my Magus at level 2, because it's that good of a fucking spell. So is Blur. That's why I double up on them. And I prefer Blur over Mirror Image, and everyone's different on this. I can understand why people say Mirror Image is better. But hear me out. Mirror Image is great, but will rapidly fall off your character. And it doesn't protect you from a variety of other things, too. Blur is always on until they strip it off you or the spell wears off, or they overcome the concealment. There is ways to do that. Blind Fight, for example, being away. So then that 20% miss chance can be invaluable, for it's just like, oh my god, I'm going to get punched right in the face. Nope. 1 in 5 chance, baby, that even if they do hit me, poof, miss. So again, Blur is decent, so is Mirror Image, and I believe you can stack them for the same effect. well, the same effect, for both effects work, where they could hit the mirror image, or they could miss me because of the blur, either or, and unprotected. So I like doubling up on them. If I had to choose between one or the other, I'd take blur every day, all day, just because I can cast it on myself. It's a set it and forget it spell. As long as I see that the blur is on me, I have a 20% chance to be straight up missed, which is helpful. It's not the same as invisible. It's not the same as displacement, which we'll see. And mirror image doesn't do anything other than you could hit me, but maybe you'll hit one of the duplicates. So there's plenty of potential for you to punch me in the face, and I have 8 duplicates sitting around me, swirling around my character, going, wow, that sucks. You just got punched in the face. Yeah, where the fuck were you bastards? Again, it's a random die roll. Again, who did they hit? Did they hit me, or did they hit one of the duplicates? The maximum number of duplicates is 8. So if you make a square where you have the corners is a duplicate, the sides, not the corners, but the sides are duplicates, that's 8. Then you're in the center. Yes, I know that that's simplifying things, because if you ever saw a mirror image in D&D, you should hit the guy in the center. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is if that's how you visualize how many of you and them there are, maximum case scenario is 8 duplicates around you. Well, if you get all 8 and you, if they hit you, or could have hit you, they will roll a 1d9, even though that doesn't exist, but again, that's the general gist. And if they rolled, let's just say a 1, that means they hit you. If they roll a 2 through 9, they hit one of the duplicates. That's basically what we're saying here. And now you're down a duplicate. And then you're down another one. And then you're down another one. And maybe the next hit, even though there's 6 duplicates or whatever still spinning around you, they still manage to punch you in the face because it just happened to roll that 1. So this is less useful to me than the blur. I love both. That's why I grab both. But again, it's nice to see that we have it here in the Lich side of things too, because mirror image is that good. And again, it does, even though it lasts for 1 minute per level, it will not last 1 minute per level, because more likely than not, it's going to be shred off you in the first 2 combat rounds. But if it did its job and you avoided 1 or more hits because of it being up, it did its job. Having said that, pernicious poison, garbage, sorry, positives. This is good for setting up a poison effect on somebody. This does not poison them. What does this do? This makes them take a penalty to all their saves against poison. So again, a really nice fuck you. Also, if they, for whatever reason, it's unlikely in this game, but I'm sure it does happen, if the bad guys try to cure one of their friends that you poisoned, because that's the thing, then there's a -4 penalty on that cure check. So that's helpful, I suppose. But by and large, it's a spell that sets up another spell. It does nothing by itself. Having said that, could I find a use for this? Fuck yeah. We got all kinds of poison spells where these bastards are resistant, making fortitude checks up the yin-yang. Fuck you, pricks. Hit them with pernicious poison after you slap down that cloud kill. That's a poison spell. So now they're at a -4 to their save against that poison. Notice that there's no save from this spell. There's spell resistance, but that's it. And there's no melee touch attack. It says within touch range. It doesn't say anything about you have to hit them. I assume you just walk over, boom, and it casts the spell and it works. So as long as there's not a melee touch attack check, because that would suck, this is an okay spell for you to soften them up and make sure that cloud kill or that stinking cloud or that whatever poison you've afflicted them with takes hold. But again, it's a spell that helps a spell do a spell with a spell with a spell. It's kind of fuck you. So I kind of shy away from it. But it's there and it's free, and fuck it, you'll take it. Pox pustules, this is not a poison. This is a disease. Notice it says it in the spell descriptor. Nice one too. Target is sickened. That's a nasty effect. And by the way, devs, if you're listening to this video, hopefully I'm not pissing you off by showing you all the secrets. The sickened, it'd be really nice if there was like a penalty here, where it's like in bold and whatever, and gives you information on what the sickened condition does. I would love that for all the different conditions. So if you see sickened or feared or panicked or whatever, that would be the pop-up I'd want to see. So I could hover over and go, what does Sicken do? Oh, that's the -2 to this, that, and the... Oh, Jesus Christ, that's an amazing fuck you spell. Awesome. And it's auto-hit. Yes, please. Close range. You can shoot it at a distance. It's a long-lasting, as long as they don't make the fortitude check to negate the effect. So it's, again, save or suck spell. But again, necromancy, we're pretty good at it. Make them get them goddamn pimples. But notice this Sicken condition is only part of it. They also take a -4 penalty to Dex. Can't lower it below 0, though. So they literally... probably what they need is below 1. So you can't kill them with this spell is what we're saying. Still, a definite screw you to the bad guy. And that -4 to dexterity, that's a big ouch to their armor class and future reflex saves. Just putting that out there. Other stuff. Scare. This is better than Cause Fear, but fuck it. It's still garbage. By the time you get this might still be viable. But notice that creatures with 6 or more HD are immune to this effect, even if they were never immune to fear or mind-affecting spells or any of that other shit that's under the spell descriptor, which is a big laundry list of shit. Once they become level 6 or higher monsters, that's 6 HD. That's what we're talking about. So if they're level 6 or higher, if you're level 9 or higher, let's say it that way, you're probably not using the spell on anyone and having it work. Just saying. This is a garbage spell. Good news is we got the better version coming up. Level 3. Bestow Curse, Contagion, Corrupted Blood, new spell, I believe only for Lich, which is awesome. Crushing Despair, Deep Slumber, Displacement, Fester, Haste, Hold Person, Inflict Serious Wounds, Mastery of Flesh, another new spell, Overwhelming Grief, Poison, Power from Death, another new spell, Slow, Spit, Venom, Stinking Cloud, and Vampiric Touch. That's a laundry list of fucking cool shit. Now again, yeah, this is cool, and yes, I appreciate this. My Magus list for level 3 was not as impressive, but again, I got a lot of good shit in here, and Vampiric Touch was being one of them spells. Same with Stinking Cloud, so I'm doing good. It's just nice to know I have more, and again, that Vampiric Touch can be channeled through my weapon, because it's a spell a Magus would have access to. I didn't even have to pick it as a Magus, because I have it here. It's good enough. So again, that's nice. The new spells are nice. A lot of good stuff at this point. There's very few things wrong in this list right now. Bestow Curse is okay, but again, Save or Suck spell. Contagion's okay. It's an evil and disease spell. That's problematic in that, and not only is it a Save or Suck spell, but there's 2 different ways to be immune to it. Are you immune to disease? Well, this is useless. Are you immune to evil effects or have a better save against evil effects? Well, this is an evil spell. This is an example of how it would be a problem. So again, and spell resistance, and you see how we're getting cool stuff, but man, it's going to be hard to land it on some of them demons. Corrupted Blood, no spell resistance. But be careful when you see that, by the way. And I'm not just saying that because it could be wrong. Dragon's Breath is a fine example of this. It still says not affected by target spell resistance, and it definitely is. And I don't know what the right answer is. Is it the typo, where they should have fixed the tooltip, or did they fuck up the spell and they gave it spell resistance when it shouldn't be? I don't know the answer to that, but you should definitely say something to the devs and say, hey, fix that. The reason I point out you should pay attention to this with like a grain of salt or test it yourself is if you read the tooltip, sometimes it will say, especially for like illusion spells, it'll say no, not affected by target spell resistance. Then down here it will say their spell resistance is applicable. What? How the? What the? Which is it? Chances are, if it's in the tooltip down here, it's right. So this can be wrong routinely. Be careful with that. But that is nice to see because, again, another spell that I don't have to worry about probably, or spell resistance. Very useful. Nausea, which means literally if they're immune to nausea condition, this isn't going to do anything to them probably. But keep reading. Target is nauseated for 1 round per caster level. Boom. Every round it make a new saving throw to remove the nausea condition. If the saving throw is successful, the target instead becomes sickened. That's still helpful, so it's not a save or suck spell. Then, if the target dies while nauseated condition is in effect, it deals 66 damage to all creatures in 15 feet radius and applies corrupted blood to them, which is this effect. Holy jeebus. But this can be dangerous for you, so be careful with that. Crushing Despair, not going to go through all of them. Crushing Despair is a solid debuff spell, AoE, teammate not friendly, be careful. Deep Slumber, this is what sleep spell should be. It's a much higher HD cap, 10, so still useful, maybe, at this level. So you could try this one, but I wouldn't try Sleep anymore. But this one could be viable. And you might even have access to this one reasonably quick when you start liching it up. So this could still be of value for another round or another level or two. But then you're going to retire it as well. Displacement, on the other hand, amazing buff. Again, something I even have on my Magus. But again, 50% chance to miss me. Fuck yeah, I'll take an extra slot of those. Fester, really nice for keeping a target from being healed. It actually gives them spell resistance, but only for purposes of being healed. So what this does is, I basically am hitting you with this Fester, and if your friends try to come over and heal you from the damage you've been taking, they would have to make a spell pen check against your spell resistance, which I just gave you. So you can't heal, well, are less likely to have a heal work in your favor, which is pretty fucking good. And again, it's not a save or suck spell per se, because again, it will last for at least 1 round, even if they make the save. So that's not bad. Haste, amazing spell. I have it on my Magus build, so of course you're going to want it on this one too, but again, free to take it. Whole person, nice spell. And again, just as a reminder for those that are playing Magi, enchantments are spells we don't normally get access to. So this is nice when every time you see another enchantment, that's an illusion too, especially an attack illusion, not the buffs. You're usually pretty happy to see more enchantments or illusions coming your way. Whole person, though, that's a nice solid spell. Again, person being operative term here. Remember, this is not undead. Undead are not people. They're undead. So persons referring to like your races, your elves, your humans, your whatever. Inflict serious wounds. Again, another melee touch attack. You cannot channel through your Magus weapon, but you can walk over, touch him on the shoulder, and fuck a guy up. It's a pretty decent amount of damage too. And again, because it's a melee touch attack, sneak attack is applicable. And again, you can use it to heal yourself, and you heal your undead. Nice spell. Mastery of Flesh, new spell. So you know how to deal with both mortal and immortal flesh when used against an enemy. Spell deals 48 plus caster level of damage. I'm caster level 20. So we're talking minimum damage if I roll all ones. It'd be 24 damage to a living target. 22 damage to a undead target. If I'm using it on an ally, if they're undead, like me, like my buddy down here, then I actually heal them for 4d8 plus 20, because I'm caster level 20. And again, living targets I could heal like my teammates for 2d8 plus 20. And again, merge spell book, that could have been a 30, goddammit. So you can see how fucking awesome that would have been for a wizard to go around healing guys. Holy Jesus, that's what wizards have been missing all along. So Mastery of Flesh sounds fucking sweet. And I like the fact that it's dual purpose. You can damage undead or heal your undead. You can damage the living or heal your living friends, which is pretty fucking cool. Overwhelming Grief. This one gets a lot of flack, but I actually like this one. It is a save or suck spell, and it's worse than a save or suck spell. It's a save or save or save or save or save or suck spell, because they can make a save every round to ignore the effects. But again, beyond that fact, if they're affected by it, that's the goal. Not only the penalty of their armor class, they lose their dex bonus, if any, but that is misleading. I wish they would say in the tooltip, they lose their dex bonus and therefore become flat-footed. It is the definition of flat-footed. Even if their dex is like 8, where they have no bonus, it's all penalty, they are now definitely flat-footed if they're under the effect of this spell. That means sneak attack, baby, for you, your thief buddy, whatever. Go to town. This is an awesome spell for that. And again, there's an AoE version coming up in this build as well. Poison, like it sounds, poison. Again, I'm not a fan, but whatever. Power from Death, another new spell. A little trippy, kind of gross, but I dig it. Power from Death, basically, the more dead around me, not undead, but dead, teammates and bad guys alike. And the AoE, when I cast this spell, gives me a buff. Attack rolls, saving throw, and damage rolls for every dead creature within a 30-foot radius. A maximum of 3 plus 1 per 5 caster levels. I'm caster level 20, so that'd be plus 4, so I can get all the way up to a plus 7 to all those things. Think about what you do with a plus 7 to your attack, to your saves, and your damage. If the fight's going bad, poof, power from death, baby. Remember, you're the delicate snowflake. If you fucking die, pretty much the game's over. So if your team's dying, hey, that sucks. Power from death, that shit. At least get some benefit from their dead corpses. And go to town. Maybe you'll be lucky enough to survive the fight. And then resurrect everybody or raise dead or whatever you have to do to get everyone back on their fucking feet. And boom, problem solved. Right? Power from death. Sounds awesome. Slow, amazing spell, just like our haste. And also, while transmutation spell, and again, I have no problem with that. Try to remember spells that have teammate friendly. Right? All enemies within 30-foot bursts. Just the red tips up there, no blue ones. Again, you can cast that at your feet, at range, however you want to do it. Or surrounding your tank who's taking it on the chin. Slow everyone. Fuck those dudes over. Because remember, slow is not the same as haste. That's a mistake I continually make. It almost feels like it is. A slow creature moves at half its normal speed instead of getting an extra plus 30 to its ground speed like haste does. It has a penalty to its attack rolls, armor class, and reflexes instead of the bonus that haste gives you. It doesn't give you a -1 to your number of swings in a round. What it does instead, because haste gives you a +1. Remember, that's why you love haste, because you get an extra attack around. But slow does something even far better. It makes the target that's affected staggered. Again, devs, if you're paying attention, staggered would be nice to have that highlighted so you could mouse over that and see what the staggered condition is. For those of you that don't know, staggered means you do not get to attack and move in the same round. This, by definition, means you do not have a full attack, which means you don't get to a flurry of blows or chop, 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 chop with all your extra attacks. No, you're one and done, son. So you need to fucking take a fight and trivialize it. Make all those bad demon motherfuckers, if it works on them, of course, because, again, spell resistance and will saves and blah, blah, blah. But if this works on them, their multiple attacks turn into one attack around. And man, do they hate your ass for that. And it's a save or suck spell proper. So, again, one and done. If they fail it, they're slowed. Period. There's ways to dispel it and cast haste and remove it and so on and so forth. But by and large, they're boned until that time. that really trivializes many fights, and it's nice to see a spell like that used. And like I said, I continually forget how powerful Staggered is. I wanted to emphasize that to you. Spit Venom is just a ranged poison attack. It has 2 effects. There's the Blindness effect, if it hits, of course, for 1 round. And then notice this next part. The target must also save or be poisoned by Black Adder Venom, which blah 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 does some shit. DC, successive, so on and so forth. Spells DC, whatever. Notice the part where it says no spell resistance. Notice the part where if you hit, so obviously it's a ranged touch attack. Again, dexterity important. If you hit them, they're blind for 1 round. There was no save to avoid it. There are blind, so it's not technically a save or suck spell. Now, again, there are problems with it. You have to hit, but that was always the fucking case. So I'm not worried about that. But notice that is a thing. Because there's a duration, it is possible that we can... Yeah, it says empower. It won't let us. These pips are wrong, by the way. It's saying that we can empower this. That's the only bit of magic I have. That's a lie. What I was hoping for is that I didn't have empower, that I had extend. And I want to see if I could extend that duration, because if you could extend that, remember, that would mean that 1 round is now 2. And you can see the appeal. Get out of there. Okay. So, but the point is it's less bad than I make it out to be. I'd rather have that versus this. Let's put it that way. And this one is still solid. It's just, this is, again, another poison. That's another poison. This one's ranged. This one's not. This one has no spell resistance. This one does. So you can see I'd rather have Spit Venom than that one. And this one doesn't blind anybody. It's just con damage, and more con damage. It's awesome because con damage will kill them. But, again, this one has got the Black Adder Venom. I don't remember what ability that penalizes. So that's a thing. Stinking Cloud. Amazing spell. Great spell. This is one that if you're immune to a poison, which is easy enough with a delayed poison spell, or just being immune to poison like your undead army is, cast that down at their feet. It's stationary, and those motherfuckers walking down that shit, and then the bad guys try to fight them in that cloud. If they start failing their check, notice no spell resistance, conjuration spell. I love that shit. They fail that fortitude check, and they're nauseated, assuming they can be. If they're nauseated, they will defend themselves. They will not cast spells. They will not fight. They will defend themselves only. So they're not paralyzed, but they're not doing anything else. And the AI is dumb in this game. So they like to stand in the cloud and stay in the cloud. So if there's something in the cloud with them, like your pets, like your undead army, or any of your team that are immune to poison, they will stand in that cloud, just stand there, choking and puking their guts out. And the best part is, until the spell wears off, or until they, once they fail their check, so it's a save or suck spell, but once they fail their check and stay in the cloud, the effect stays on them until they leave the cloud. And it clings to them after they leave the cloud for 1d4 plus 1 rounds. So 2 to 5 rounds later, so that's a big jump. They're still doing nothing. Not casting spells, not attacking. So you got 2 rounds minimum to capitalize on that shit. Go over there and beat them like a pinata. Good times. It's a great spell. Vampiric Touch, again, can cast it through my weapon. Should do so. Awesome spell. Level 4. Animate Dead. This is why you went Lich, bitch. Get yourself in your armada. Yeah, you got a general. Time to fucking give him an army. Animate Dead. Amazing spell. Sadly, it only lasts for 1 round per caster level. That's kind of garbage, but what are you going to do? I suppose you could extend it. I would highly recommend you do so. Get some meta magic rods and do that thing. Be a Magus that has meta magic, like an Eldritch Scion or a sorcerer for that matter, and double the duration on that. But these are fodder. Let's just say it. There's ways for you to buff them up, and we'll see that when we talk about Mythic Paths abilities and feats and shit like that. But by and large, they're fodder. They're just there to flank some shit, maybe get a lucky attack off, hold people into your area of effect spells, so they take a little more damage or be affected by your area of effect spell a little bit longer. That's basically what they're there for. Bone Shatter, the big brother version of Bone Shaker. Again, 15d6 cap. Notice that is a cap. So again, unlike Bone Shaker, which didn't have a cap, but was capped by the fact that there was never anything beyond level 20 normally anyway. Well, again, remember we talked there was a level 30. So, hell, there's a level 31 for that matter. I think, as a matter of fact, I can get you to level 33 on a spell if I really push the effort in it. And maybe even higher than that. But the point is that one isn't capped. This one is. So 15d6 is all you're going to do. But there's more that this one does than just damage. A, failed saving throw, not only do they take full damage, they become exhausted. If they make the check, that's why I love this spell, they take half damage and they just become fatigued instead of exhausted. Well, The downside of that is it's fatigue, and a fatigued character doesn't turn into exhausted like it should. So fatigue is all you're going to get if they keep making the check. But at least they'll take half damage. And again, fortitude save versus a reflex save. Consume Undead. Now this one's fun. New spell. This is the one where you literally, I can either damage an enemy, and literally, assuming it's undead, and do 1d8 damage per caster level, and then I'm healed for the same amount. So again, it doesn't have a cap on it, so 20d8 for me, 30d8 for you wizard or sorcerer or lich bastards out there, best case scenario. Maybe even 31 or 33. But point is it's a lot more. Solid damage, and you heal yourself from it. Not temp HP, not like false life or greater false life, which I'm about to show you here before too long. I mean heal yourself. Cap off your health, your actual damaged health. Now, what happens if you do this against an ally that's undead, like him or any of his buddies, or like create undead spells that we have access to and some other summons that we have that will also be undead? Well, if we drain them, we do full damage. And again, just like it says, if we do full damage to them, we get full healing to us. So instead of it being 1d8 and be a die roll, it's 8 times your caster level, and all that comes back to me in health. So again, who do I love, him or me? Well, if I die, he dies, so I might as well just suck his life force and bolster mine. Consume Undead, baby. Death Ward, amazing spell. One that's not normally afforded wizards and sorcerers, if I'm not mistaken. This is usually a cleric spell, so it's very nice to get this one. Could be mistaken on this, but I want to say that this is almost always a cleric, druid, or even an alchemist spell. So to have it in a non-divine caster type class is pretty fucking badass. Innervation, amazing spell, ray spell. No save, but there is spell resistance, and you could miss. It has stacking levels of temporary negative levels. Ignore the 1 hour per level bullshit. That's important for pen and paper, and it's also important for when you get hit with it, because we assume that you're going to survive the fight, so then you have many hours of being debuffed. Having said that, for a bad guy, he's not going to be debuffed for long, right? You're going to fucking kill him, I assume. You're not going to let him go home to his mom and dad. So by and large, you're debuffing him, and then you're kicking his ass. And for those that don't know what a temporary negative level, just let's talk about negative levels for a second. Because negative levels can kill somebody, for one. Two, for every negative level, and these do stack. So it means if I can beam you with this 7 times, 8 times, I can fucking do that. And I can kill you, or I could really just debuff the bejesus out of you, assuming that you're susceptible. Well, what does negative levels do? Well, first off, it does 5 points of damage to the target per negative level. That's not amazing, I'll grant you. But if all you needed was a love tap anyway, and this is the last spell you had prepared, fucking shoot them. It'll kill them. So again, something. Also, it will, if they survive, obviously, they will be at a -1 to all their saves for every negative level they have. Now, remember I said they stack. What if you beam them 5 times in a row and you maximize each one of those spells? So it's -4, -4, -5 times. That's a -20 level motherfucker. That's a -20 to all his saves. And there was also no save for this spell. So again, you're softening him up for you or your teammates. You can see the appeal. Amazing spell. And this is a spell that, while again, an Eldritch Archer in a Magus class like me can get it, we can only get it for free with those free spell picks. So they cannot shoot this through their bow. Okay, be real clear on that. So what? Still a cool spell. You definitely want it. Eyes of the Bodak, new spell. If you love temporary negative levels to all those single target motherfuckers, how about this little bastard right here? This one is literally you buff yourself and give yourself eyes that can inflict to, it says, enemies within 30 feet. I'm assuming that that's accurate, which means that it won't affect your teammates. Let's hope that's true. Anyone that you're looking at for the next 1 round per caster level within 30 feet gets a negative level each round. Which, whew, fuck yeah. And no spell resistance, no saving throw. That sounds fun. And it's a death sight spell, whatever the hell that means. So that's pretty cool. Greater False Life, a bigger version of False Life. Again, I don't particularly care, but again, I'd rather have 22 to 40 temp HP for an hour or several hours than have none. So I suppose, cool, we'll take it. Fear. Now this is the fear spell you wanted and one you deserve. And Batman beside. Just kidding. Fear spell that doesn't have an HD cap. And that's important. Also, even if they make their save, it's not a save or suck spell, it's a save or something spell. If they make the save, they're at least shaken for 1 round. And that's not amazing, I'll grant you. But at the very least, it's something you or your team will at least can capitalize on. So again, I prefer this one over all the 3. So Cause Fear sucks, Scare sucks, Fear's alright. This is one that I don't mind getting for free, and I'm actually pretty happy to slot it, even though I didn't. Greater Invisibility. Can't say enough great things about it. Doesn't last long, But other than that, it's the typical plus 20 to your stealth, and you can attack and cast spells and everything else, and you still stay invisible. Fuck yeah, it's an amazing spell. More of those. Give me 8 of those, I'll be happy. Ice Storm. Weird cold spells. You notice that we're getting a lot of necromancy spells, of course. We're also going to see a decent smattering of cold spells, which seems a little odd to me, but I guess undead, cold, kind of makes sense. But no saving throw this one anyway, and it's kind of a who cares. Inflict critical wounds, solid, used for healing you, healing your undead, damaging them. Don't use it on their undead because it'll heal them. Phantasmal Killer. Weird illusion spell, but again, makes sense with it being a necromancy spell in that, or a lich spell, in that it's killing somebody. If they fail 2 saves, a will save and a fortitude save, the heart attack. Will save to believe the illusion, the fortitude save is the heart attack, they die. If they make the will save, there is no fortitude save. That's a save or suck spell. If they fail at least the will save, and it's both the same, will save and the fortitude save are the same DC check, by the way. If they fail the will save, then even if they make the fortitude save, they take damage. That's the 3d6 of damage you see down there. So basically the stress of this situation. And that could be enough to kill them. But there's also the spell descriptors. Mind affecting, fear, emotion, negative emotion. That's a laundry list of shit. And why is that important? Because A, you'll find gear that buffs your fear effects, your mind effects, your emotion effects. You'll also find targets that are immune to any of those categories that are immune to that spell. So if you're immune to mind affecting, this won't work. If you're immune to fear, this won't work. If you're immune to, you get the idea. So this is an annoying spell in that regard, but I love the spell, and it's fun to watch because it's a big purple fucking ninja samurai shows up. I don't know why it's always the same guy, but whatever. You can see him, even though technically speaking, in pen and paper terms, I don't think you're supposed to see the target. The only person that's supposed to see the imaginary thing that's scaring them to death is the target themselves. That's why it's such an amazing spell in pen and paper, because you cast a spell if no one's noticing you casting it. You cast a spell, team captain on the other side of the bad guy squad grabs his chest and fucking keels the fuck over, and everybody's like, what the fuck happened? Did the captain eat too much bacon this morning? What the fuck? Well, you guys are down your main dude, time to kick your ass, and that's when Phantasmal Killer is fucking nice, right? So that's what it's supposed to be. But I still like the graphic. Unholy Blight. Again, I don't know enough about this one, but again, I suppose this could be interesting. Only good or neutral are affected by the spell. That sounds like a bad idea for us because we're probably going to be fighting evil monsters. There's at least neutral monsters in the game. Animals routinely are neutral. There's very few, if any, animals in the game that are evil. They're just straight up neutral. They're animals. They're eating your face off because they're hungry. You stumble on their lair. So they're neutral monsters, typically. So it will work on them to a lesser extent. But good outsiders, so like angels or celestials, will get fucked by this spell, but obviously we don't want to do that. Vampiric Blade, now another new spell, and I think that one's a new one as well. Vampiric Blade, new spell, self-buff. The spell allows your weapon to do one, I'm assuming it's any weapon, if that's true. If it's melee, just because it looks like a sword, that sucks. But if it works on like a crossbow, fuck yeah, Vampiric Blade and nut up, baby. Shooting you at a distance. With a spell that does additional damage, 1d6 plus the caster level additional damage, and every time it hits you, it heals me for that same amount of damage. That sounds fucking amazing. I'd love to be that on a crossbow. If that worked, since it's a self-buff, I can't imagine that would work on like bombs if you're like an alchemist. But if it did, vampiric bomb it up, baby. That, so sexy. Level 5. Baleful Polymorph, weird transmutation spell, but again, total lich thing where you're basically turning them into a puppy dog and then kicking the puppy dog. Kind of dig it. Bone Explosion, a solid spell. Save or suck spell, no. This is actually a spell that they will take damage, period. It's just how much. And it explodes, so it's dangerous for you and your teams, so be careful with it. But by and large, they will take damage. Anyone in a circle around them will also take damage. And that will be dictated on whether they failed this first save or made it. So it could be okay, it could be great, and again, no spell resistance, which you have to love. A new spell, by the way. Cloud Kill, amazing spell, can't say enough good things about it. Poison effect, no spell resistance. Conjuration spell, so if you really want to jack up that DC check for those fortitude saves, Conjuration is a good, solid choice for a lot of spells that do not have spell resistance. Cone of Cold, I told you we had a lot of cold spells. Here's a first example of one with a nice saving throw. Decent damage, you'll appreciate it, and not for nothing, but it's something that gets overlooked a lot for a Lich build. Remember how we talked about, let's go back to level 4, these little animate dead and this little fucker here, as well as your create undead spell. Those undead are immune to cold. So you could stand behind them like a good Lich Master would and come cold through the motherfuckers and just tear up some shit. Just saying. Deny Death, new spell. Love the graphic on this too. Place a ward on anybody. I'm assuming this would even work on you, but kind of weird to do it. I would probably cast this on, say, like the tank. What this does is they don't die. What happens is if they could have died, they literally become paralyzed and become like inert. So they're paralyzed till the end of battle. They just don't die. So it could protect them from you having to res them, so to speak. And again, for those of you who don't know, Raise Dead and Resurrection and those spells do exist in this game. However, they usually require you to use a very pricey scroll or a very pricey diamond to get them back on their goddamn feet. We're talking like $5 grand to just get them back up. So I'd rather do Deny Death on somebody so that you're buffed. You're doing fine. Just like kind of walk over as the wizard and just be like, "Hey, Paladin, how you doing, buddy?" Tap him on the shoulder as you cast Deny Death. You're doing good. I'm gonna be back here. Yeah, go charge. Get him. Good on you, buddy. Oh, he died. No, he's not. Deny Death. So again, you can see the fun you can have with a spell like this. I wouldn't put this on necessarily the whole goddamn team, because if the poop hit the fan of that magnitude, you got other fucking problems, son. But for your main tank, that again, every build or playthrough, I should say it this way, every playthrough, there's that inevitable suicidal motherfucker on the team. For Pathfinder Kingmaker, the two people that stood out to me that died all the fucking time, if it wasn't a Miri, I love her. It's my woman. Don't you dare say anything bad about Miri. If it wasn't a Miri, it was Knock Knock. Those two fucking died more than anybody, man. And they were my fucking Ginsu chefs and fucking just damage dealers besides. They were just choppity, boy. They were fucking a mean duo. But they died all the time. So, Deny Death on either or both of those would make my day. Just saying. Exsanguinate, another new spell. Again, we're getting a lot of new spells, bro. No spell resistance, gotta love that. Nice range to it. Force the target's blood to overflow. 1d6 damage per caster level. 20d6 for me, 30d6 for you. Sore spot. Wizard liches or sorcerer liches out there. They take that damage and notice the "and" there, that's important. And then there's a fortitude save. The fortitude save was not to half the damage. So they take that full fucking damage and then make a fortitude save or not. If they fail it, they take strength damage and bleed damage. And notice how the strength damage here doesn't say will not take them below 0 and kill them. So remember how we could flatten their strength down to 1 with a Ray of Enfeeblement? Follow it up with a nice little Sanguinate spell, and they take their strength down. If they fail that fortitude check, poof, they're dead. No matter how much health they had. Very nice. Fetal Mind, another weird enchantment spell. I love the pick too. Make them dumbass idiots. This is a killer for caster types, because casters cannot cast spells once they're affected by this. And it doesn't say arcane casters, it says casters, period. So, hit this with anybody. If they fail their will save, so it is a save or suck spell, if they fail it, they have an intelligence of 1 and a charisma of 1. And I'm assuming that means that intelligence for wizards fucks them, charisma for sorcerers fucks them, so you would think only arcane casters. No, this works on clerics, even though it's wisdom-based casting. Their intelligence, I'm assuming what this means is their intelligence is so low they can't form the words, would be the way I look at it. So anyone that's a caster, now you're not a caster. So that sucks. Hope you got a weapon. They'll still be able to fight. They'll still be able to do shit. But again, having that low of an intelligence, charisma, that's pretty fucking sweet. And if you have any other spells that can lower intelligence or charisma another point, they're dead. Just saying. Pretty fucking cool. Best part of this spell is if it's an arcane caster, specifically, so like a sorcerer or a wizard, they take a -4 penalty to their saving throw on this, and then they're normally good at will saving throws. So having a -4 built into it, it's fucking just a nice way of fucking them over. So a really good chance of this one will land. And it is a save or suck spell proper. There's not a save over time. No, it's just a one and done. So, good way to neuter those guys. Hold monster is another way to neuter them. But again, this is a will save, and again, they're pretty good at those. But ninjas aren't. Get those little rogue bastards that are starting to choppity you and your team up. How about you paralyze? Is that a nice hold monster spell? Don't like that? Okay, how about the wizard that, again, has a good will save? Well, hit him with a reflex paralysis spell called Icy Prison. Another cold spell, by the way. And again, cold in the spell descriptor is important because it tells you not only is there cold damage here, but it also tells you that if you had like elemental focus and greater elemental focus cold, this would buff this spell DC check, making it harder for this for the bad guys to break out of this shit. And this is a nice spell for that reason. Constant damage over time until the spell wears off, and it's a long time. Don't let it tick for fucking 20 goddamn minutes. That's just sick. Go over there and coup de grace the motherfucker. But again, both of those, by the way, are paralysis spells proper. If they are paralyzed, and coup de grace will definitely work then, get someone over there. They have to have their full turn to coup de grace them, but it's a guaranteed crit. Well, what might you want to crit with guaranteed? How about that? A guaranteed crit on a maximized version of Vampiric Touch. Remember, that's 10d6. Maximized is guaranteed 60. Crit is double that. So 120 temporary health added to my fucking character. Fuck yeah. So you can see how I would love Hold Monster and Icy Prison spells. And two different feels. And again, if it weren't for the fact that we're talking will save versus reflex save, I would say that they're basically the same spell, except one does damage and one does not. And then if that were the case, because there's a spell like that called Constricting Coils, that's exactly like Hold Monster. It's an enchantment and everything else, but it does damage over time. And people are like, well, then why get Hold Monster? Well, in pen and paper, and I know that's not what we're playing, in pen and paper there is a reason to keep the kobold alive and kill all his friends with the other spells. Paralyze that motherfucker, murder all his friends. Remember, just because he's paralyzed doesn't mean he can't see and hear everything. He sees and hears everything you're doing to his buddies. You saunter over to his happy ass and you point that dagger at his fucking genitals and say, hey, where's that fucking dragon I want to kill? They'll give up the fucking dragon. You fucking finish him off or let him run away, whatever, up to you. But at the very least, you got your information. But that's in pen and paper. Having said that, again, these are different. Again, will save, reflex save. There's a better way to buff this one than there is to buff that one. Yes, you can get enchantment buff with spell focus enchantment and greater spell focus enchantment, but I could do the same with evocation here. And I could double up on it by doing elemental focus and greater elemental focus cold. Can't do that on this one. So I can get a +4 to the DC check on this with just my feats, whereas this one I can only get like a +2. So there's reasons to like one over another, but again, I like them both. Mass inflict light wounds. Now remember, AoE means I can heal me and my undead army and damage all the living bad guys that are in the area, and of course my team, so be careful with that shit. But by and large, this is AoE healing and damaging all the same spell. Who doesn't like that shit? It's not amazing damage, but again, I can get to caster level 20, so maximum of that +20. I can't get to the 25, but you could with a wizard lich build. Decent choices here. Phantasm Web, weird illusion spell to kind of throw at a lich, but I suppose the liches are all about fucking hiding the fact that they're hideous corpses. So illusion magic kind of makes sense, I suppose. And it kind of echoes into that whole, shadow realm, evil, blah, blah, whatever. So, I suppose. Phantasmal Web, though, is a 2-spell-in-1 kind of spell. This illusion spell is basically a web spell and a stinking cloud spell all in one. However, it's an illusion, so it can fail drastically. Having said that, if they fail the first check, they're webbed up. If they fail the second check, the next round, then they have the nausea condition. That's basically the stinking cloud effect. So again, that's why I say it's 2-in-1. It's an amazing spell, and when it works, man, it works beautifully. The best part of this spell to me is if you look up there where it says target, notice how it's all red pips. This is a teammate-friendly illusion spell. Cast that shit at your fucking feet or your main tank's feet when they're fucking getting surrounded by bad guys, and hope beyond hope that it at least lands on one or more dudes, because you will fuck their shit up. So it's a very nice spell. Profane Nimbus, kind of a weird one. It's really only beneficial when you're fighting good things. So, I don't know. I hate spells that hurt them if they hurt me. I mean, I dig it, but it's one of those where I like Vampiric Shadow Shield better because it hurts them and I heal from it. There is reasons for wanting Profane Nimbus, like you get a saving throw against good descriptor spells, but when's the chance that's going to happen to you in this game? Repurpose, on the other hand, new spell. You mark a target with a Curse for Servitude for 1 round per 2 caster levels. So for me, 10 rounds. They do 1d6 of damage per round. That's only 10d6 of damage. What the fuck? Wait, I'm not done. A, no spell resistance. B, medium range. C, if the target dies. During the effect, it is revived after death as an undead creature under my command. Damn right he is. Fucking repurpose his ass. Put you back in the battlefield. Get up. Fucking just spam this shit on the battlefield and then fucking just AoE the fuck out of them. Skeletors everywhere. Slay Living. It's an alright spell. I mean, it does decent damage. It's just kind of lame. Notice how it doesn't have a caster level cap on it. So for these 30 level wizard liches out there, for example, you guys can do 12d6 plus 30 points of damage if they fail the check. And if they do make the check, it's 3d6 plus 30 points of damage. So it's still a decent amount of damage. It is a melee touch attack, so it could crit. It can also sneak attack, so there is that as well. I don't know why they add that last sentence in there. The subject might die from damage, even if it succeeds in its saving throw. Yeah, that's what damage does. I don't know, whatever. Vampiric Shadow Shield, talked about it, like Profane Nimbus, I like it better. Waves of Fatigue, no saving throw, not teammate friendly, but again, it will fatigue a shit ton of dudes. Kind of a weird level 5 spell, but again, AoE style. Remember, fatigue effect, if it works, remember, there's still spell resistance here, and many things are immune to fatigue, like your undead, for example. But, point is, fatigue is a -2 to strength, -2 to dex. People can't rage if they're fatigued. So there's a variety of ways that this fucks over bad guys and teammates. Be careful with it. But by and large, if you're doing what you're supposed to, this is not a bad spell. Racking Ray, new spell, but it's a new spell that wizards have access to, so it's nice to see it be given to us for free. This one's actually pretty interesting. Ranged touch attack, so again, it's a Ray spell, like it says. But the subject takes 1d4 points of dexterity and strength damage per 3 caster levels. You're a level 30 Lich, aren't you? That's 10 times d4. So 10 d4 dex, 10 d4 strength. Wait, what if they make the save? Halves that amount. So instead of 10 d4, it's more like 5 d4. That's still upwards of 20 fucking points of goddamn dex and strength damage. Notice this spell cannot reduce an ability score below 1, so you're not killing anyone with it. But let's face it, if their strength and or dex is all 1, they're probably not long for this world. Pretty fucking cool spell. And yes, it's a Ray spell, so it can miss. It can crit. I don't know what that would do, but probably just nothing. It'll just say critted. Still do the same amount of dex and strength damage, but whatever. I still like seeing the crit. Point is, it's a fucking badass looking spell, and again, a solid fuck you spell. Love that. Now, for me, who's a lowly, lame level 20 Lich, I'll only get, what, 6d4 dex damage and 6d4 strength damage to the target. Having said that, there is a way for you to get another level of Lich, well, of any spellcaster for that matter, easily. There's an ability upgrade that you can get from a mythic ability or mythic trait or feat or whatever the fuck it's called, and it will let you pick a school of magic, like necromancy, for example, and give you one more caster level on all your necromancy spells. So instead of being level 20, I'd be technically level 21. Why does that matter? Well, 21 divided by 3, that's 7. So I can do 7d4 of dex, 7d4 strength. And again, it's not amazing. I just thought I'd mention that to you because it was kind of a cool thing that I thought about the other day. Level 6. Banshee Blast, amazing spell. Blasphemy. Bone Shield. Terrible graphic. But immune to critical hits and a plus shield bonus besides, and it lasts for a decent amount of time. It's a definite spell you want. New spell, by the way. Circle of Death and Undeath to Death. Those are your moneymakers right there. Both require diamond dust. Both mean that you need to have that material component in your backpack. Lots of it, so pack your diamond dust. Brother Mutant says so. Circle of Death allows you to kill anything living for a certain amount of HD, like a shit ton of HD. Some creatures are immune. Some just take damage. By and large, it's just an amazing screw you spell. Having said that, it's dangerous because it can hurt your team. Undeath to Death specifically says all enemies. Now, I haven't tested this because he's not an enemy. He is undead. Undeath to Death could kill him. Could hurt me because I'm technically undead too. So be careful with this. I'd test it, do a quick save. Just saying. But by and large, those are your two only that you give a fuck about in this entire list. I mean, there's great shit in here too, besides, so we're going to go over all of them. But those two are the moneymakers. Kill everything alive, kill everything that's undead. That almost covers everything in the game. It's not all. Because, for example, golems are not living and they're not undead. Just saying. Cold Ice Strike, another cold spell. And a swift action spell. Can't emphasize that enough. Combat starts. Wouldn't you like to shoot twice? Cold Ice Strike and then zip out another spell. Remember to do Cold Ice Strike first. And you may say why. If you do a spell and then try to do Cold Ice Strike knowing that you haven't used your swift action, I don't think it lets you. So do Cold Ice Strike first. It will use the swift action when you cast it, and you can follow it up with another Cold Ice Strike, and that'll be a standard action at that point, or any other spell for that matter. But Cold Ice Strike will use your swift action, but you have to use the swift action first. So fire that fucking 15d6 of damage off, and that's nice. And remember, immune to cold. Create undead. Yeah, it's time to get out some Grave Knights and some Guardian Armors out here. Fuck you. Time to get some armor. These guys, you get to choose which of the two you summon. It takes a while to summon them, so this is kind of the annoying part. But again, and they also don't last long. But again, pretty damn cool. We got a lot of spells that heal them and buff them besides. So we got plenty of reasons to make these guys good. Disintegrate, amazing transmutation spell. Again, 40d6 best case scenario of damage if they fail their check. That's 40d6 of damage to a single target. And then throw on sneak attack on top of that shit for some fun. And just melt their fucking face off, because that's what Disintegrate does. Pretty damn tits. And while it's a save or something spell, the something is kind of lame. Only 5d6 of damage. But, again, because there's a to hit check, you can straight up just miss. And B, if you do hit and they make their fortitude check and they do that 5d6 of damage, if sneak attack was applicable, you still did sneak attack. So I do like that. So again, pretty decent transmutation spell there. Eye Bite, decent spell. False Grace, this is AoE False Life spell. Much better version, 3d10 plus caster level. Temporary hit points for you and all your allies. I have yet to test it to see if it buffs your pet, but if it does, fuck yeah, man, get that army up there and get them another fucking, 23 to 50 fucking HP. Boom. Yeah. We'll do that for several hours a day. Mass Fester, just like Fester, but AoE version. Harm. Good spell for you and your undead horde, because you can heal with that, but you can also damage undead with it. Again, damage living with it, say it the right way. It's not as good as heal. It's the same as heal you would think. It's not as good as heal, because heal can be used to heal, and it can be used to damage undead. This cannot. Obviously, it's the reverse then, sure. But heal also has the ability to cure, like, ability damage and drain, etc. and so forth. Harm does nothing like that. Harm is just a straight up, it does damage or it heals. That's all it does. So it heals the undead, it damages the living. That's all you get. But 150 worth of healing? Psh, yeah, I like that. Plague Storm, diseases. Guess who's immune to diseases? Your undead army. So an amazing way to fuck over some bad guys. Again, no spell resistance, necromancy spell instead of conjuration, which is kind of trippy. But again, appreciated. Primal regression, kind of weird. I'd pass. Siphon life, and ranged version of Vampiric Touch attack. I mean, it's built into the spell. You can shoot it at a distance. Other than that, it's exactly the same. So kind of cool. Again, because it's a ray spell, you're inclined to want to use that with your Eldritch Archer. You cannot. Remember, they do not have access to Siphon Life. Even if they get it this way, that didn't count. So just shoot it, and then shoot with your bow. That'll happen normally. So you'll cast the spell, and then you'll grab your bow and go plop, plop, plop with your arrows. But by and large, it still does what you want it to do. 10d6 of damage. You maximize that for 60. If it crits, because it's a ray spell, it has to hit. If it hits them, crits, double that damage and double your healing. You could have upwards of 120 health for 1 hour. That's not bad. Siphon Time, transmutation spell. AoE version basically of slow and haste combined. Slow all the enemies and haste all the allies. Kind of trippy. And no spell resistance, by the way. Very nice. Umbral Strike, nice ray spell. Necromancy spell. So if you're following your spell focus and greater spell focus, good spell. It is not a cold spell. I made this mistake a long time ago in my previous videos for Kingmaker, and I want to make sure that I don't follow that mistake again. And I think that's a mistake, quite frankly. I wish someone would say something to the devs. Maybe I should bug report it. But point is, it does cold damage, half of negative energy damage. So it does up to 20d6 of damage. It ignores concealment, but not total concealment. So like 20%, which means like blur, which is good. I appreciate that. And it's a ranged touch attack, so you have to hit, and it could crit, and it can sneak attack. So there's a lot of good love here. And if they make the fortitude save, they take half damage, so it's something. But if they fail it, they take full damage, and they're blind for the duration of the spell. Yes, look at that 1 round per level duration up there. So you can blind motherfuckers with this spell. But again, even though it does half cold damage, it's not considered a cold spell. Why do I mean that? Because it doesn't benefit from elemental focus cold. Greater elemental focus cold does no good for this spell. It's a damn shame, because I always wanted to make a cold, undead, elemental focus, greater elemental focus cold, and a spell focus, greater spell focus necromancy build. And this would have been a way to do it, because liches are getting a lot of cold and necromancy spells, and this would have been a fun way to do it. Again, I'll still do it because Cold Ice Strike is awesome, Cone of Cold is awesome, got other spells coming that are awesome that are cold. It's just, this is the one that, man, that would have been a really nice fucking 1-2 punch, because that would have been a +4 to the DC check. Because remember, because elemental focus and greater elemental focus, that's 2. Spell focus and greater spell focus, that's another 2. So that could have been a +4 to the DC check of making sure someone takes full damage and is blinded by this spell. That's money. That's just an amazing spell, if that would have worked. So again, solid level 6 spells. Level 7, 8, and 9. Now this is where I break out of shit that my Magus will never be able to touch. Only the Lich side of him will be able to do. Just fucking cool. But again, wizards and sorcerers and all these guys probably had access to similar things, if not all of these things. Blessing of Unlife. I think this is a new spell. You basically turn your allies into undead for a certain amount of time. One at a time. Obviously, you cast it per person. 10 minutes per caster level. Then you get undead immunities, whatever that implies. So again, probably disease and poison immunity and cold immunity, and it can't be energy drained, etc. and so forth. So a lot of really good buffs right there. And then notice how they have native energy affinity, which means I can heal them with my Inflict line of spells, just like I'm doing with my undead buddies. And then there's more. They get DR5/bludgeoning, which means bludgeon weapons will hurt them. They'll penetrate right through that. But slashing and piercing weapons, whether they're magic or adamantine or whatever, doesn't matter. They're still reducing it by 5. That's something. Protect you from archers, for example. So that'd be a nice way to buff your team. They may hate you for it, but fuck it. You're the Lich. You're in charge. Destruction. Amazing spell. Notice Finger of Death is here, and I did the math on this the other day. I want to say Destruction is actually better. It's exactly the same spell, damn near. They're both Necromancy. There's both Fortitude saves. Affected by spell resistance for both of them. There doesn't seem to be anything different between them other than the amount of damage. Close range and close range. They both seem to be auto-hit spells. They don't seem to be a race spell. I mean, like a ranged touch attack. So there's no chance to crit or sneak attack. This just does damage or doesn't. If they make the save on this one, they do 10d6 of damage. If they don't, they do 10 points of damage per caster level. Notice there's no cap on that. So 300 or 200 damage for me, 300 for you motherfuckers. Finger of Death, 10 points of damage per caster level. Again, no cap. So again, 200 for me, 300 for you wizard liches out there. If the Fortitude saves are on this one, instead of doing the full 300 or 200 damage, it does 3d6 plus 1 point per caster level. This one doesn't have that part. It's just a flat 10d6. But if you take the average of 10d6, that's 10 is the minimum, 60 is the maximum, add those together, that's 70. Divide by 2, that's 35 is the average damage you can expect if they make the Fortitude save. Now, over here, if we do 3d6 plus 30 for you, best case scenario, again, as a wizard, that's a Lich as well. So it's 3 plus 30 is 33. Well, actually, let's do it this way. What's 3d6? 3 as the minimum, 18 is the maximum. Add those together, that's 21. The average of that is 10.5. Then add the 30 onto that. That's 40.5. So in your instance, you would do better with this. But if it's me, remember, I don't get 30 caster levels, I get 20. So again, if I take that 10.5 and add the 20 to it, that's 30.5. What was the average on this one? 10d6, 70, 35. This one would be better for me. This one would be better for you, the Wizard Lich or the Sorcerer Lich or the Arcanist Lich. Okay? So there is differences here. Keep track of that. Feast of Blood, new spell, amazing spell, straight up screws the bad guy, and then they make a Fortitude check after they take a shit ton of damage. It's AoE version of its Sanguination, so again, amazing. Strength damage, bleed damage, just an amazing fuck you spell. Icy Body, or Ice Body, excuse me. New spell as far as I know. This one is similar to Fiery Body. For those of you that don't know what that is, go to your Wizard Spell Book and find it. But this one is different in that while it's amazing in that you're immune to cold, you're immune to a variety of things like ability to score damage, blindness, critical hits, disease, etc. and so forth. No crit's not in there. Or sorry, sneak attack's not in there. You can be immune to sneak attack with the Fiery Body, if I'm not mistaken. Also, the Fiery Body gives you a benefit in that you can do, I want to say, get a +1 caster level to all your fire spells while you're under the effect. This one doesn't have that benefit, which is kind of a bummer. I would have loved to have had a +1 to all my cold spells or something like that. Would have been fucking sweet. But whatever. And you're unarmed tax if you ever did that sort of thing. Now being considered unarmed, which means you don't get a tax of opportunity against yourself. You're considered like you're armed, like you're punching with the cold fists. It's just, it's a decent protection spell, though. Mass inflict serious wounds. Again, AoE healing for you and your undead army. AoE damage for any of the living that are around you. Obviously, make sure your team's not near that. Or give them the blessing of unlife, so now that they can benefit from that shit. Insanity, just mass confusion spell. Poison breath, mass, like cone version of poison spell. Power word blind. Now we're getting into the fun shit. Power word blind, power word stun, and power word kill are going to be your spells at level 7, 8, 9. You're limited by the HP of the target, so if they have so much HP, it won't affect them. But if you, that's not your max HP that we're worried about. If you damage them below the 201 HP that you're seeing here on this list, so let's say they have exactly 200, you can now use Power Word Blind on the motherfucker. It will work. There's no saving throw. And while there is no somatic components to these spells, that doesn't exist in this game, but it's still nice for flavor for those people that are like, oh, I'm using a sword and board, but what spells can I use? Well, you use your power word spells. Power word blind, power word stun, power word killer, always amazing. So again, these are nice spells. Restore undead. Obviously, this is for undead allies. We're assuming they meant like these. I don't know that it would work on an ally that you did this to, because they're dead. Be interesting to see. It'd be a fucking nice way to restore them. Waves of exhaustion, and I should point out that that's probably because it says allies, not ally, because there's only one here. That probably refers to the fact that liches, and I do know this for a fact, or at least I know that this is set up in this game. You have the ability to kill main bosses. You take their dead corpse back to their fucking castle, and it's in your dungeon or your prison, and you can go to the prison and see their corpse. And I'm assuming that as a lich, you'll be able to resurrect the motherfuckers and make them serve you as an undead minion, which is fucking cool. I'm assuming that's about waves of exhaustion, much like waves of fatigue, but obviously the exhaustion effect instead. Level 8. Greater Bestow Curse, massive penalties. Death Clutch, Domain of the Hungry Flesh. That was a sick looking picture right there. But I'm assuming this is a placeable, because it makes it sound like it's a stationary thing, like a pit spell kind of thing, where it's the floor is like eating your fucking feet. Death Clutch is the big brother version of the Bone Shaker, Bone Shatter. And even if they make their save while it doesn't do any damage to them, it at least staggers them for one round. So while that's annoying, at the very least, staggered effect is helpful. So again, you have a chance to like help a teammate. For example, like again, if the demon's getting 7 attacks on somebody and your teammate just cannot handle getting hit 7 more times, Death Clutch that motherfucker. Again, assuming that he doesn't have spell resistance, that's a problem for you. You lock that bastard up with at least a staggered effect. He'll only get to swing once, so that's something. Embrace of Death. Nice. Surround the target with necromantic energies. Target fails will saving throw. It falls into a coma. Starts receiving 1d6 con drain every round. It can attempt new saving throws every round. On a successful save, it is staggered for one more round and suffers 1d6 constitution drain again. And no spell resistance. You gotta love spells like this. Frightful Aspect. Now we're talking. Weird as it is to say, for wizard and sorcerer liches, you guys probably are not making a strength-based build. But for a Magus, especially an Eldritch Scion, hell, remember, this spell book is available to any non-caster for that matter. So anyone that's a strength-based build, this is the reason you want to go Lich. This spell alone can give you another 6 to your fucking strength, and that's a huge buff. And it makes targets scared of you, and it gives you extra con, and some extra natural armor, and some built-in spell resistance, and some damage reduction. It's just a novel, all-around amazing spell, and it lasts for a decent amount of time. And it stacks with other effects. For example, I'm thinking about making a Lich build, but instead of it being a Magus for the main class, I'm thinking of going Grenadier. I already have the character made out. His name is Remma Mummy. And Remma Mummy is going to be jealous of all the wizard motherfuckers because he got kicked out of the Wizarding Academy. He never got to even get more than one cantrip under his belt. He learned how to cast the light spell, and that's it. So he became an alchemist and decided, because of his jealousy, while studying alchemy, he realized he could make himself a mummy with the mummification abilities that alchemists can get. And then he decided from there, when he got the Lich powers, that he's like, fuck it, I'll be an actual caster with my Lich spell book. And he is. And he's going to be fun. He'll be neutral evil, and he'll be awesome because he can use Frightful Aspect along with other spells that he has that can mutate him and make him bigger and stronger and faster and all that jazz. And then he can chug a mutagen, which will give him even more strength, dex, and or con. So again, I can get his strength for a non-strength based build. I can get it into the 30s and 40s. If I went strength based build on him, which I'm not going to, but if I did, I could get his strength well into the fucking 50s. That's powerful, guys. That's a big fucking swing right there. And that's a hard-hitting son of a bitch. So Frightful Aspect is an amazing spell. Horde Wilting, amazing spell, better against water elementals and plant creatures. But by and large, a solid spell. AoE, not teammate friendly, be careful. Mass Inflict, critical wounds, great spell. Polar Ray, another cold spell. Saving throw, no. Race spell, ranged touch attack, so sneak attack is applicable. Can crit, all that jazz. Race spell does cold damage per caster level up to 25d6. For me, it'll be 20. For you wizard liches, that's 25d6 is applicable. Notice how it also does dex drain, 1d4. And it doesn't say anything about won't take them below 1. So remember those spells where we took their dex down to 1, because that's as low as it'll take it. Follow up with a nice Polar Ray. Guaranteed death, assuming you hit them, of course. Very nice. Power word stun, amazing. Take their health down to at least 150 or lower before you cast it. But by and large, it's an amazing spell. Soul Reaver is kind of a mistake. I don't see anything about this spell that makes me say, woo. I mean, it's got a big area of effect. Maybe that's the thing I'm missing here, because the 25-foot burst, that's a big one. It only works on living creatures, 20d6 of damage, Fortitude save for half damage, and their spell resistance. Got better spells than that already. Unholy Aura, kind of a weird one. And normally I would say fuck this spell because, again, we're not fighting good characters in the game. I'm sure there's some, but not a lot. Notice the very second paragraph there, right here, the one that says, first, each warded creature, again, because it's all allies, each warded creature gains +4 deflection and +4 to saves. Unlike the effect of protection from good, this benefit applies against all attacks, not just against good creatures. So that right there is the reason for this spell. And the fact that it buffs like the whole team. You know, obviously, if you get close enough. But that's about it. Other than that, you're dealing with... oh, wait. If a good creature... Oh, if it's a good creature attacking you. Yeah. So again, the part where it hurts good people is the part that is probably less important for you. 9. Corrupt Magic, Energy Drain, Flay the For Purpose, Mass Hold Monster, Mass Icy Prison, Negative Eruption, Polar Midnight, Power Word Kill, Wail the Banshee. Weird. Nice list right up here, man. This will give you some really good spells. Let's start with Corrupt Magic. Basically, it's a single target mass dispel magic spell. What does that mean? It hits the target and it steadily goes through their highest buffs that they have on them with magic and tries to dispel magic it, and then goes the one under that, and the one under that, just keeps on going. And if you, the more you debuff or strip those spells off them, the more of a penalty the target takes. They take a -1 penalty to attack and damage rolls, save throws, and armor class for every dispelled effect. That's pretty fucking cool. So I kind of dig that. And I've yet to test this, but there is a feat in the game, Disruptive or something like that, where if you cast a dispel magic spell on a target, it has a chance of stunning them. Well, this is a dispel magic effect. It's a granddaddy of dispel magic effects, but it's a dispel magic effect. So if this works with that feat, that'd be amazing, because you'd have dispel magic, you'd have greater dispel magic, and then you'd have corrupt magic, and those would be 3 really good 1, 2, 3 punches to screw over a bad guy. Energy Drain is the big brother version of Enervation. Amazing spell, 2d4 ray touch attack, no save, negative level stack, all that same jazz. It's basically just Enervation hitting them twice. Flay for Purpose, same as the repurpose spell, but it's AoE. No, it's not AoE. Well, they take even more damage. Yeah. After they die, though, again, they become undead and work for you. And again, this one here, Flay for Purpose, this one reminds me of like you walk into a town, someone spits on your fucking shoe, and you say, fuck this, I need a new minion. Flay for Purpose. Kill the motherfucker just outright, and then you resurrect his undead skeleton to fucking walk into the next village and, you know, polish your boots that he just spit on. Whatever. Mass Hold Monster, Mass Icy Prison, 2 different types of paralysis spells. Again, will saves versus reflex saves. Cold damage, no damage at all. Still amazing spells. Negative Eruption, decent AoE damage. It's like Harm Spell, but again, AoE version of it. Again, acts like heal for undead, which includes you and your minions, and anyone that you buffed up with that Blessing of Unlife. So again, you get that on the whole goddamn team, and then start doing shit like this, just AoE, you know, harm. It's just a shit ton of damage. Notice that undead affected by it, of course, besides getting healed, they also get another benefit of it. +2 bonus to attack rolls, damage rolls, will save throws, and twice the caster level in temporary HP. Well, my caster level is 20. Yours is 30. So 40 to 60 HP to all undead minions. Fuck yeah, that sounds sweet. Polar Midnight, again, another cold spell. Fortitude save. Does dex damage. Fortitude saves each round. Negates the dex damage, but not the cold damage. And it's not amazing cold damage, I'll grant you, but remember, these guys are immune to cold damage. And if they're immune to ability damage too, I'm assuming that's why you have this. You know, sat that down somewhere like by the door, and then summon your undead armies to fucking walk through the door, hold them in that door. So they constantly take cold damage, and then presumably some random dex damage, which could kill them. That could be pretty cool. Power Word Kill, get their health low, and then just instant kill them, motherfucker. Just gotta love shit like that. Wail the Banshee, AoE spell, not teammate friendly, so be careful. It does decent damage. I don't know that it's amazing for what it does, but it doesn't have a level cap, so 30 Whether that be 300 points of damage for you, AoE style, 200 for me. Doesn't affect you at least, so that's something. Weird is the AoE version of Phantasmal Killer, another amazing illusion spell. So again, having this one do just mass like instant killings, and or even if they make that fail that first save but make the second, they'll do 3d6 of damage to them, and at the very least will not only do that, they'll also be stunned for a round, and they'll take strength damage. So there's a lot of reasons for this being a save or something spell. So just make sure that that first save they fail, or that they're not immune to all the effects, of course. But again, Weird, as you can see, is an amazing spell. Now this video has gone on long enough. I would have loved to have shown you some stuff, but I just ain't got the time. I'm going to have to bust into another video to do the Angel Path, which is what we're going to do next. But I need to let my computer cool down to do that because it's hot as hell here and I got the AC off so I can talk. But with that, I think this is a nice start of the Lich Path. Again, there is, again, I'm cheating to get to level 10, but there's some decent stuff that Liches are going to get into. The Dark Rites are pretty damn badass. Lich and all his companions in a 30-foot radius cast spells as if their caster level is 2 levels higher. So you can see we're going to get a lot of spells or abilities that buff our spell casting ability. Lord Beyond the Grave, this is the one where we're allowed to literally buff up our minions. So again, any undead that we command within 50 feet get a strength, dex, and charisma bonus equal to half our mythic rank plus 1. I'm level 10 right now. So my little buddy here, he's getting a plus 6 to all those stats because of Lord of the Beyond the Grave when he's standing next to me. Notice how their attacks now ignore damage reduction except for number/dash, which is not very common, so that's pretty cool. And again, we have other stuff that we could have picked in our mythic feats / mythic abilities that could have buffed our undead minions. Instead, I grabbed things like Tainted Sneak Attack, which is awesome, Magic Devourer, which gives me some built-in spell resistance, and a Quicken Magic feat-ish every time I'm attacked with a spell anyway. Deadly Magic gives me like badass, where I can like 3 times a day, it says 3 rounds, but they mean 3 times a day. You can literally make your spells ignore spell resistance and spell immunity, and anyone that's affected by your spells at that point can't cast spells for 2 to 4 rounds. That's a massive fuck you to the casters. And it doesn't have to, I mean, it specifically says ignore spell resistance and spell immunity. Think of all your AoE auto hit spells that have spell resistance, and if it just affect them, like waves of fatigue, waves of exhaustion, just enough to affect them. And well, spell resistance, well, now I can make that spell resistance or immunity go away, so it's going to work. And now they don't get to cast spells for 2 to 4 rounds. You just fucked over their casting party right there, right? So you can see. The point is, and there's more than this. This is the Lich powers, I think is what these ones are called. You only get to pick like 3. You get a variety of summons. Obviously, they're undead. Some fun to be had here, and of course, again, my other spells and shit that came from my arcane bloodline, my undead bloodline, etc. and so forth. But again, last thing to point out, I did say the one thing I want to talk about. So spells per day. Notice how I have level 1 through, I want to say 8. I have 8 spells a day that I can pick from each of these. 8, 8, 8, all the way to level 8. Level 9, it goes down to 7. This is misleading. Take 4 away from every last one of those. And the reason for that is because you'll notice when I go Magus, level 1 through 6, I have 11 spells, 11 spells, 11 spells, 10 at 5, and then 10 at 6. That's a lot of spells. Well, why do you have that, brother? Well, because my Mythic Path, I grabbed where'd it go? Just saw it, damn it. Now, abundant casting, improved abundant casting, and greater abundant casting. Plus 4 spells for levels 1, 2, and 3. Plus 4 spells for level 4, 5, and 6. Plus 4 spells for levels 7, 8, and 9. And that works with both spell books. Remember I said there's a reason to go Lich and a Wizard and not merge the spell books? This is the reason. You get multiple castings a day. And I got, literally, think about what I'm saying here. For my Magus, I got levels 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 spells that are 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4 extra spells. That's 12, 12. That's 24 extra spells a day because of these 2 feats. These 3 feats gave me 4 more spells per level 1 through 9 of my Lich book. So that's 4 times 9, that's 36. So 36 and 24, I got 60 extra spells simply because I took these 3 feats. Is this the best way to go? I don't know. But I know it's fucking fun. So again, you'll find tricks like this that gives you better spells, more spells, better DC checks, and there's a variety of stuff that we can talk about in other videos. But with that, my name is Brother Mutant. Please like, subscribe, comment down below. Apologies for the long video, but I did want to do an in-depth look at the spells. We were going to do just as long a video with the Angel. I just need time, like I said, to cool my place down and get my computer to recuperate Maybe clean out my head. I got a stuffy nose today for some reason. With that, though, my name is Brother Mutant. Please like, subscribe, comment down below. Are you looking forward to being a Lich? Tell me in the comments down below, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye now.